Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today I am talking about Michael Corner. I'm Renee. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers in this episode. Quick character summary on Michael Corner. Michael Corner is a Hogwarts student in the same year as Harry Potter. He shares a lot of similarities with Harry, from fighting against Voldemort to dating the same women. Though Michael is a relatively minor character, there are some wild fan theories about him, so I can't wait to discuss those in this episode. Let's get into it, but before we go into Michael Corner, let's do a new section. We're going to do comments of the week. For this section, I wanted to talk a little bit and highlight some comments that we get on our social media. You all have such great comments, so keep them coming. And I'm trying to post more videos. So we post on Instagram and TikTok. It's under Magic Beyond the Books. So feel free to follow if you're not already, or you can leave comments directly on the podcast wherever you're listening. That's fine too. But on Instagram and on TikTok, we post more like video sections relevant to things that we talk about, or just funny meme videos, things like that. So going to our comments, there was a video we posted from a section from our Oliver Wood episode. That was episode 13, if you're not going in sequential order and you want to go back. So we posted this video about Oliver Wood's reaction to Harry getting a broomstick, where he's just like completely floored. And people had the best comments on that one. But a favorite was from Brewster's Cafe, who said, I mean, if my buddy was mailed a Ferrari at school, I'd look like that too. So definitely good comment. Touche. You would definitely be surprised. Another comment we got, so on Professor Quirinus Quirrell, episode 2, we had a post about like him smelling like garlic and using garlic to cover up the smell of Voldemort. And on TikTok, businesswoman said, I thought it was to cover the stink of evil. Perfume and death smells like perfume and death, but garlic and death smells like garlic. Again, great point. Great point from businesswoman. And last comments I'll call out are from our video about, so this was from Voldemort's Return Part 2. That was episode 25. And we talked about how Voldemort and the Death Eaters were kind of like mean girls. And y'all loved this and had so many good comments. Here was a little comment chain. Morgan Nicole Young said, now I'm just imagining Voldemort being Regina George, and it is hilarious and perfect. And then Haley Bost6 said, if he's Regina George, Lucius is definitely Gretchen. And then someone else says, his hair is full of secrets. And then this 100%, and does that make Snape Katie as well, since both were pretending to be friends while plotting the downfall of Voldemort / Regina? So we're getting deep into the theories and comparisons between Mean Girls and the Death Eaters, and they're actually way closer of storylines than I even thought of when we recorded this episode. So all great comments. Keep the comments coming. I love these. I'll try to call out some more, give some more like comment highlights from our socials and from the podcast channels. But let's get back into the episode. All right, so let's go through Michael Corner's character timeline. So he was born around 1979 or 1980. He's a half-blood wizard, and he's in Harry's year at school. So he's the same age as Harry throughout the books. The only physical description we get about him is from Hermione. She describes him as, quote unquote, the dark one, which I'm not really sure. Maybe she's referring to his skin tone, or maybe just like his hair color, eye color, like he has dark features, or it could be just his general aura is just of darkness. Not sure. We don't really get like much more elaboration on that. And the book doesn't kind of go into detail. So if someone was fan casting him, I mean, they're like could do pretty much anything. In the movie, though, in the 5th movie, he was played by an actor named Ryan Nelson. And Ryan isn't like, it's not credited as Michael Corner. it's credited as quote unquote slightly creepy boy. And he's sitting next to Ginny, and people kind of just like put it together that that would have been Michael Corner because he would have been dating Ginny at the time. And then I got like different reports from like Google and online, and I couldn't find an actual credit. I saw some people say that someone named Jack Reed played him in either the 7th movie or the 8th movie. So like maybe someone else plays him. I mean, I'm not really sure. Like again, like these aren't really exactly credited to Michael Corner. Um, but I definitely know that Ryan Nelson played him in the 5th movie because he's in multiple shots. He's in the Dumbledore's army. I'll share some pictures. He is best known for The Last King and also Crusade in Jeans. You might have seen him in those. So shout out to Ryan there. I think, I mean, his illustration of the movies, the way he's portrayed, like he's pretty quiet and he's just got this longish, like medium length, like dark black hair. And it's so funny that they just describe him as slightly creepy boy. I think his hair, the best way I can describe it is just tragic. It's just a terrible haircut. It's like the overly long, like male haircuts that were kind of started to be a thing. Like I think of back then, like the Bieber sweep thing was like a hairstyle. And the 4th movie, they all had long hair, but like it's like this escaped the 4th movie into the 5th movie with him just having this like tragically like awkwardly long, but not like long enough to put in a ponytail type hair. So I don't know. They did a weird thing with his look there. But yeah, so picture Michael Corner however you want to picture him, because we've got like some different, the movies illustration of him versus the book's not giving us a ton. But anyway, let's go through his timeline though. So Michael Corner, he arrives at Hogwarts the same day as Harry on September 1st, 1991. And he gets sorted into Ravenclaw House. And you can find his name on J.K. Rowling's original 40 list. That's a list you can find in the like J.K. Rowling archives in harrypotter.com of she had made a list of 40 names of some of the students in Harry's year just for her to have a reference. But it's important to note that she just listed 40 of the students in his year. So there's supposed to be more than that. But Michael is mentioned in that list. And then he kind of gets mentioned sprinkled throughout the books, and I'll kind of go through that. So Michael Corner, after coming to Hogwarts, he ends up befriending some other, Ravenclaw males in his year. Terry Boot and Anthony Goldstein are kind of his little like besties that he goes everywhere with. And in book 4, he goes to the Yule Ball, and there he meets Ginny, gets to know her a little bit, while Ginny got to go, even though she was the underclassmen that don't get to go to the Yule Ball. It's kind of like prom. She went with Neville Longbottom, but she meets Michael Corner there and hits it off with him, and they start dating sometime at the end of like book 4. And she then dates him into the 5th book. So she's the one that, obviously when Hermione comes up with the idea of Dumbledore's army, she kind of floats the idea to a couple people, and Ginny being one of them. And Ginny invites Michael Corner because she's dating him at the time. And Michael brings along his friends, Terry Boot and Anthony Goldstein, to that original meeting in the Hogshead. And at that meeting, there a couple times, like a lot of the different people speak in this meeting, and Michael Corner, kind of challenges Hermione a bit. Like Hermione was saying that, how bad of a teacher Umbridge is, and how she's just like teaching to the test, not really teaching to like real world skills. So Michael says to Hermione, "You want to pass your defense against the dark arts OWL too, though, I bet," said Michael Corner. And even though he's challenging her a little bit, she kind of like comes back and says, "Yeah, that's important, but like this is like it's about more than just tests." And he's still generally supportive along with the other Ravenclaws. And then when Harry kind of gets like unsure, trying to say that he gets help for a lot of the things that he's done, and people are listing off all these like amazing things that he's done in his past, Michael is one who makes sure to point out Harry's flying in the Triwizard Tournament. So he says, Harry was saying, I had a lot of help with all that stuff. And then Michael says, not with the dragon, you didn't. That was a seriously cool bit of flying. And then Harry kind of like, says, well, yeah, I guess technically I did do that. But so Michael seems like generally like, supportive of Dumbledore's army, them starting this, and supportive of Harry and being, a skilled wizard and being able to successfully do stuff. So then after the meeting, Hermione explains to Harry and Ron that Michael, Terry, and Anthony came because, Ginny's dating Michael. And this is when Ron learns about this romance between Ginny and Michael. And that's when he's immediately starts to get against Michael, saying things like, he's like, which one was Michael, to Hermione? And then Hermione, this is where Hermione says, oh, he's the dark one. And then Ron's immediately like, oh, I don't like him. The next day, Umbridge outlaws clubs at the school, and, they're all suspicious that someone blabbed to her. And Ron immediately thinks like, oh, maybe Zacharias, or it could be Michael Corner. Like, now he's all against Michael Corner, this random guy who doesn't even really know who he is, just because he's dating Ginny. But once they find out about this, Umbridge outlawing the DA, that they've just created in the Hog's Head, Michael and his friends and some of the other Hufflepuffs too, they all try to come over to the Gryffindor table to talk to the trio to figure out what they're going to do. And of course, this would look suspicious. So Ginny runs over and is like trying to tell him, you can't come over right now. And in that moment, she kind of calls him a fool. She's like, oh, like he's a fool. He can't be coming over here. It's going to cause suspicion. We're getting a little bit of hints that maybe like Michael Corner, makes mistakes, or maybe sometimes doesn't do the smartest things, but we don't really know too much about him. And then at the first Dumbledore's army meetings, at the first one, Harry pairs them off to practice Expelliarmus. And Ginny, of course, teams up with her boyfriend, Michael. And Harry notes that either he's very bad or he just doesn't want to jinx Ginny. So this is where we get into, like, there's some stuff about Michael. Like, I'm not sure if he's a skilled wizard or not a skilled wizard. He does seem like I don't know. I think he's one of those people that maybe gets like a little emasculated by Ginny being better at things than him, because he seems like he doesn't want to jinx her when they're doing the DA stuff. And then I'll talk more about stuff later, but I don't know. Maybe Michael is smart and good at things, but maybe he just has a problem with like, jinxing Ginny instead of like actually giving her good practice. I'm not sure. But anyway, him and Ginny continue to date until the end of his 5th year. Ginny ends up dumping him, she says, for being a bad loser. She says he didn't like Gryffindor beating Ravenclaw at Quidditch and got really sulky. So I ditched him and he ran off to comfort Cho instead. And she doesn't seem bothered by the breakup at all. And she ends up dating Dean Thomas pretty shortly after. And Michael, I guess, moves on pretty quickly from the relationship too, because he goes right to Cho, which it seems like I couldn't find. I'm not sure what position Michael Corner plays on the Quidditch team, but I guess it would make sense that if him and Cho Chang are playing on the team together, that they would, be acquainted. So at the end of his 5th year, he starts dating Cho. And then it seems like he continued to date her for a while. So in his 6th year, he's in Harry's NEWT potions class that Slughorn is teaching. And on the first day of class, he seems really invested in potions. And he asks Slughorn eagerly if he'd ever taken Felix Felicis. So if he's made it to NEWT potions, which there's very few people who did, it seems like he's at least got some skill in potion making and probably some in defense from being like a member of the DA. And then in his 7th year, so this is after the trio ends up leaving Hogwarts. In his 7th year, Michael rejoins Dumbledore's army because Luna, Neville, and Ginny kind of keep it going. I would say it's arguably led by Neville. I mean, Neville seems to really step up, especially since Luna and Ginny end up, stopping going to school because Luna gets captured, and then Ginny has to stay home for her safety after Ron gets discovered. So, uh, Neville's the one that kind of keeps it going strong. But anyway, Michael Corner, he rejoins Dumbledore's army. So he's definitely anti-Voldemort and all the Death Eaters. And when the Dumbledore's army is doing stuff at Hogwarts, kind of fighting against like the Carrows' reign there, the Carrows chain up or take like a first year, and I guess they're like chaining people up. I'm not really sure what's going on. But Michael goes and frees that first year, and then he gets like tortured for it pretty badly. And that's when they kind of stop like doing stuff so outwardly with the Dumbledore's army so people wouldn't get hurt. But it definitely goes to show Michael's character. I mean, Michael seems like he's generally a good guy. Like, I mean, freeing a chained up first year from the Carrows and, going through torture for it. So then when Harry returns to Hogwarts and towards the end of book 7, this is before like the Battle of Hogwarts breaks out. Michael questions Harry like why isn't joining to fight the Death Eaters. He says, "You're going to leave us in this mess?" demanded Michael Corner, which makes sense and tracks for his behavior with like freeing the first year. He's obviously seen how bad it's gotten at Hogwarts, and they're all thinking that Harry's back to like help them fight against the Death Eaters, which wasn't really his plan. His plan was to just get in and get the Horcrux and get out. But anyway, during this scene as well, Cho arrives. She comes back to Hogwarts and she goes to sit by Michael Corner. So I'm thinking that him and Cho have been dating this whole time. So basically from the end of his 5th year through his 7th year, I think he's still dating Cho for those couple years, I guess. And I guess they do like long distance when she's not at school anymore. And in this scene, they're talking, this is the discussion like in the room of requirement when Harry's meeting with the DA members. And Harry asks Michael, along with the other Ravenclaws, about the lost diadem that he's trying to find. And Michael says, "Yeah, but the lost diadem," said Michael Corner, rolling his eyes, "is lost, Luna. That's sort of the point." So he's part of this conversation that all the Ravenclaws are talking about. And this ends up getting Harry to just go with Luna to the Ravenclaw common room to look for something. And then after this, obviously the fight breaks out and there's the Battle of Hogwarts, which Michael participates in. And it seems like he survived that battle. So I think he, goes on to live a happy life afterwards. And that's pretty much the storyline with Michael Corner. We get, a little hints of him. It's interesting. It's like he has this parallel story with Harry where he dates Ginny and Cho, but in the opposite order that Harry does. And then he ends up being with Cho a long time, like Harry's with Ginny for a long time. He plays Quidditch. He's in the DA. He fights against Voldemort. He's doing his own fight against Voldemort when Harry's off looking for the Horcruxes. And he potentially is someone also with dark hair like Harry. So it's like weird. It's like he's Harry's twin. I mean, I know Neville is compared to Harry with them both being a potential chosen one, but it seems like Michael Corner's off here being a lot like Harry, living this like parallel story as well. So kind of cool. Let's get into theories about Michael Corner. So Michael Corner is one of the side characters that had more theories that I found than most other people as far as like the smaller characters. So I thought it was interesting. One theory I found was that Michael Corner is secretly a muggle. So there's this whole like chain on Reddit. Basically, the idea is that he was in King's Cross Station. He went to pet an owl and just ended up on someone's luggage cart getting, brought through platform 9 3/4. And he just ends up on the train to Hogwarts and he just kind of decides to go with it. This is kind of a crazy theory. And it is canon that Cho Chang marries a muggle after all this. So people are saying basically that Michael Corner is that muggle. So he's been secretly a muggle who goes to Hogwarts and just flies under the radar and then marries Cho in the end. And I guess there's some support for the theory that he doesn't want to jinx Ginny in the DA. Like maybe he can't jinx her. I don't know. I think this theory, it's a funny and interesting theory, but I think there's too much to go against it. Like, there's no way he gets through the DA without casting a single spell. And you need to have magic. You can't just be a muggle and like use a wand. You need to have magic to channel through the wand. And also, he's skilled at potion making enough to be, in any WT level. And that requires magic as well. Like, he makes it through 7 years at Hogwarts. He plays Quidditch. He's in the DA. Like, he participates in the Battle of Hogwarts. I just don't think he would make it through all of that without getting caught or killed or something just as a muggle. So this is definitely an off the wall theory. I mean, maybe you could write like some sort of fan fiction that goes a little bit off of the canon to have him be secretly a muggle, but I don't know. Interesting one. Very crazy. Another theory that kind of goes with that is that, like, so he's the child of a one night stand between a muggle woman and a Wimborne Wasps Quidditch player, and basically is raised by a muggle. So like, he has magic, he's a half-blood, but he just doesn't know anything about the magical world. So I guess you could kind of like try to get around the not having magic if he's like, he's like a half-blood wizard that didn't know that he was a wizard. But I still think there would be indicators as a muggle. Harry had indicators when he was a muggle. Magical things happened to him without his control. So I don't know. Again, with the muggle theories, I guess people just really want to have a muggle go to Hogwarts. I think it's because it gives us all of us muggles, hope that we could make it to Hogwarts one day. Another crazy theory that I found was that Michael Corner is the child of Severus Snape. So they're saying, I guess, that Severus might have like somehow secretly had a child that he didn't know about, and it ends up being Michael Corner. I think this theory is mostly based on the fact that in the movie, they make him look like a young Snape. Like, he's got this longish hair. He's described as being slightly creepy looking, which goes hand in hand with Snape. And he's got like this pale skin. So he kind of like, in the movies, he looks like he could be Snape's son. I think it is odd that they like gave him that look. It looks like when movies cast a younger person to be like in a flashback or something. So I don't think there's any other support for this theory. I mean, people were going back and forth on a Reddit thread about it and saying like, Snape was probably mostly celibate for his life because he was like always, in love with Lily. But then people were commenting that Lily has some similarities with Ginny, and Michael Corner dates Ginny. And then Harry is like kind of a romantic rival for him, like James is to Snape. So he kind of is living a little bit of like a parallel storyline even to Snape, if Harry is like the James and then, Ginny is like the Lily. But Lily like never actually dates Snape, whereas Ginny actually does date Michael. So it's not really so much of a like, and Ginny's not like best friends with Michael. So it's like a little bit different of a situation, but I don't know. I think this theory, like I said, I think it's mostly based on the movie, less so the actual canon of the book. And I don't believe that Snape had any children. I feel like based on the canon of the book, I don't think that he ever had a kid, or like, even that he didn't know about. But yeah, those are some of the crazy theories about Michael Corner. Write in, tell me what you think. But that's all for this episode. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And next week, we will be discussing the second task of the Triwizard Tournament. Until then, happy reading, happy listening, and may you never be bitten by a werewolf.